Hi folks, Dave, the Audiophile. This is the Erzetich Audio Mania, and these are my Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Erzetich Audio for providing the Mania for a review. Do greatly appreciate it. Erzetich Audio, you rock. I also want to thank Reviews by Wavetheory for reaching out to me and asking if I wanted to review the Erzetich Audio Mania, and for putting me in contact with Erzetich Audio. So thank you very much for all the efforts that you put together so that I'd have this opportunity. Reviews by Wavetheory, you rock. If you haven't already, check out the link down below for a link to Reviews by Wavetheory's YouTube channel, and give them a subscription and tell them I sent you. All right, so the Erzetich Audio Mania. This will set you back 1,199 euros, or roughly $1,325 USD. It is a semi-open over-ear headphone design. It has 50mm titanium-coated dynamic drivers, 80 ohms of impedance, and a weight of 440 grams. Was not able to determine the sensitivity for the Mania. The Mania comes in a absolutely massive box. This thing is insanely huge. I'm not going to open it, as it is basically a big huge chunk of foam and then a couple accessories, which you get a bag that says Erzetich on it. I do find it kind of hilarious that they provide you a little velvety type of bag to carry around your headphones, when the box it comes in is just absolutely ginormous. And then you get a cable. Now the cable is a very nice feeling and looking cable, but it's a little bit on the stiff side and a little bit heavy. It does terminate into a 1/4 inch adapter, or excuse me, 1/4 inch, 6.35mm. It's a flat design, and it has this very nice Kevlar type of covering, and then you have a chunky split, and the connections are the Audeze 4-pin mini XLR style. You do have this little red band to tell you that that's the right channel. Overall, it's not a bad looking cable, and it's not a bad feeling cable. It's just a little bit on the stiff and heavy side. I did have moments of it clearing off my desk for me while I was listening to music, and just moved inadvertently just because it's kind of stiff. The headphones. So the Mania are 440 grams, and they are rather large. You have this nice wood ring. Metal everywhere. You got metal on the cups, faceplate, metal yokes, and then you have sliders, which are rather hard to adjust. And then you have a carbon fiber headband. You have this nice leather suspension strap, and they just twist and turn however they want. They are a very reminiscent of a M1060. If you ever had a monoprice M1060, it did the same thing. Only difference is this is way better built than the M1060 ever was. The monoprice M1060 was a coat hanger with speakers attached to it. This is a lot more premium built, but it does kind of do the flopping thing like the M1060 did. Ear pads. So the ear pads are really large, nice and thick, and very cushy. They do have a somewhat smaller inside, and if you use the Zeos finger method to measure, it's about 3 knuckle, but barely. And I find that when, make sure they're flipped around here properly, when they're on my head, I can actually feel the inside of the pad, and it's just a little bit I don't like that, and it's a little uncomfortable for me. And so the pads could be just slightly bigger, but it may not bother your ears. And some people don't mind if the ear pad touches the ear, but for me, I never have cared for that feeling. So that's just a nitpick of mine. I wish the pads were slightly larger. I also find that I get a little bit of a hot spot right here on the top of the head, and the ear pads get a little bit warm over time. And so it's just about an hour or so, and then I have to take a few minute break and let my ears kind of cool down just a little bit and that hot spot disappear, and then I can continue listening. But overall, they're fairly comfortable, and they are really, really nice to look at. 80 ohms of impedance. The Erzetich Audio Mania is not the hardest headphone to drive, but portable devices will struggle with, especially dongles. DAPs were okay. If I used a different dongle, I was able to drive the Mania fine with portable devices on like higher gain settings. But where they really shined were with desktop. The Mania does scale with a little bit more power, and they are they like to be what's the word? They like to be spoiled a little bit with higher quality sources. But I use them with all my desktop sources, anything from the Hifiman EF600 to the Mytek Liberty DAC 2, Audeze Deckard, SMSL DO300, AUN X1S GT, also the JDS Labs Atom Plus, Headamp GSX Mini, Tor Audio Roger, Drop THX1 Linear, and the Mytek HPA. Everything drove it fairly easily. Some of the lesser powered ones you did kind of have to push a little bit more, but overall they're really not that picky on desktop. But you do notice differences between DACs and sources, and so they do reveal your differences in gear, which is a nice little added bonus that they provided. Speaking of sound, how do the Erzetich Audio Manias sound? So the Mania has a rather interesting presentation. It's a little bit on the darker side with just a little bit of sparkle and energy up top. But the bass of the Erzetich Audio Mania is big. It's bold. It's powerful. And it has a lot of rumble and grumble. You're going to go, it's going to reach down into the sub bass, and you're going to get some down there, which is a nice fun factor. And then the mid bass and upper bass have a good presence to them, and you get nice impact and slam. And overall, it's just a fun leading bass, and it has a warbler tint to it. And the tonality is good. You have a nice amount of quality natural tones and timbre, and the detail retrieval is very good. And then the resolution of the details is nice, and it's a well-controlled bass, but it does lean fun, and it has a thick, robust, powerful, authoritative type of bass that is just going to drive things, and it's going to keep your arms rolling if you are a air drummer, and it's going to keep the toes tapping. And then the mids of the Mania have a nice lushness to them, and I found that I really enjoyed male vocals with the Mania, especially male vocals like Leonard Cohen. He had a nice Johnny Cash was another one. You get this bassy, warm, just kind of authoritative presentation with those type of vocals. And then as you went up into the registers and you got into like a Michael Bublé or a David Phelps, it still had that authority and a lushness to the sound. Female vocalists also presented very well, and if you enjoy anything from like an Amber Rubarth or a Diana Krall all the way up to somebody like a Sandy Patty, with a very high and soprano, powerful soprano voice, or somebody in country like Reba McEntire or Trisha Yearwood. It has a nice power to it and authority to it, but yet it stays controlled, and they just draw you in. And the Mania has a very romantic mid, especially with vocals. Instruments also have a very nice tone and timbre to them and sound very natural and realistic. And then the treble. The lower treble is a little bit more elevated and has a little bit of sparkle and energy, along with the upper mids also have a little bit of a peak there, and you get a little bit of sense of sparkle and energy, but the rest of the treble is very well controlled and laid back, and you go back into that darkness mode, kind of like the basses, and you get a little bit warmer sound. And overall, it's just a very comfortable and pleasing treble that's well controlled, has just enough sparkle and energy and air, but it has a very content type of sound signature. So the bass, the mids, and the treble are very pleasing and just kind of a romantic type of presentation. Soundstage. Now the soundstage of the Mania is different than pretty much anything else that I've heard, in that it's more of a U-shape. And so you have your bass and your treble, and then as it comes, the mids kind of are always back, just back a little bit here, and it's like you're surrounded by everything else, and it just kind of adds this romanticism and coziness to the mids without putting them in the forthright into the spot. They're still in the spotlight, but they're not being like forced upon you. And it's just a very unique presentation in U-shaped type of width and depth to the stage. Imaging is very good. Everything goes across the stage very well, and you can track it from side to side. There's no stuttering and no tripping, no spots of emptiness or anything. Everything just flows across the stage. And then it's pretty precise. You can go, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. Oh, that came across, that moved. And then depth is very good. It just kind of moves your vocals and your instruments a little bit on the back burner, so to speak, just a little bit. And some instruments, like percussions and upper brass and upper strings, will sound a little bit more forward than the rest. But for the most part, it's a pretty good sound signature and sound stage, the way that it presents everything. It just kind of has that U-shaped bowl shape. Detail retrieval is good. It's, you're not going to miss anything, and then what it resolves, of what it picks out, is very good. And then tone and timbre, very natural and accurate, except for those slight peaks in the upper mids and lower treble region, maybe just a little bit too bright for some. Overall, I like the Mania quite a bit. It's a very unique and interesting presentation, especially with its U-shaped soundstage. And I really enjoy how it presents, because it kind of puts you more like you're having a concert and everything's kind of here, but you're not front row. You're a little farther back, and everybody's a couple steps back on the stage as well. It's just a very unique presentation overall. How does it compare to the Sennheiser 8XX from Drop? Now, the Sennheiser HD 8XX has more forward mids, and they have a little bit more fullness to them, a little bit more natural tone and timbre. Treble is more extended and has a little bit more shimmeriness to it, and it's more elevated. And the bass is not as thick and powerful as it is on the Mania. And the 8XX overall has a more even approach to the soundstage. It's not as U-shaped as it is on the Mania. And then you have the Hifiman Arya Stealth. Now, the Hifiman Arya Stealth is a more analytical sounding headphone, has better detail retrieval and resolution. Tone and timbre are pretty similar on the Mania and the Arya Stealth. And the Arya Stealth has a more full sound signature and bigger sounds. Everything sounds bigger on the Arya Stealth. And soundstage wise is a little bit wider and also has better depth. It's not as far back as the Mania. And overall, it's a little bit more precise in its placement. So the Erzetich Audio Mania. I like this headphone. It's very unique, very different than most sound signatures that you're going to get. It has a fun side to it, but yet at the same time, you still get a little bit of the detail and resolution that you're seeking, especially at this price point. Erzetich Audio Mania. Yeah. If you want something different, check out the Mania. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support the channel. All that kind of stuff is down below. Speaking of supporting the channel, there's multiple ways that you can do that, with one-time gifts through PayPal and Venmo, or monthly subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Different tiers offer different benefits, and you can get access to my private Discord server. Also, you can get access to Patreon only live streams, and also personal one-on-one conversations with me. So check out those links if you're interested in supporting the channel. Also, down below there's all kinds of information like gear recommendations and tier recommendations, music recommendations, and all kinds of other things down below. So check out those links. And then lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.